He had lived next to the circus for as long as he could remember. A huge dome of faded red canvas rose behind the houses like something unfamiliar and very old, as if it had appeared there too long ago, and no one remembered where it came from. A few trucks, dull posters, the smell of cotton candy mixed with cold dampness, and lazy workers who moved as if they had long been tired of everything. But in the evenings, everything changed. The music became slow. The lantern lights began to tremble, and the shadows of ropes and flags stretched too far, as if trying to reach the houses. The boy often watched the circus from his window and could not explain why he was drawn to it. It wasn't just curiosity, but a strange sense of recognition, as if he had been there before, but couldn't remember it. One evening, the loudspeaker came to life, and through the static a voice said,
"Tonight, a special performance. One night only."
The voice was hoarse and unpleasant, as if it belonged to someone who hadn't spoken in a long time. The boy didn't say a word to his parents. He simply left, as if someone had called him. There was no one at the entrance. The door was slightly open, and darkness began immediately behind it. He stepped inside and found himself not in the audience hall, but backstage. It was cramped and suffocating, smelling of gasoline, smoke, and heated metal. The smell was heavy and sticky, as if it clung to his skin and wouldn't let go. He moved carefully, trying not to make noise, and heard voices.
"You poured too much,"
one said sharply.
"It's fine,"
Another replied.
"This isn't a water act, it's fire."
"I've done this hundreds of times."
The boy stopped near a thin curtain and carefully peeked through. Behind it was a small area. In the center stood a metal frame made of several round rings fixed one after another like hoops you jump through. The rings were wet and glistening, soaked in a flammable liquid. Nearby stood a plastic canister filled with the same substance. A clown held a torch, and a man in a dark coat watched.
"Make sure there's nothing extra,"
the man said.
"It'll look better this way,"
The clown replied and kept pouring. The boy stepped closer to get a better look and accidentally nudged a small metal table with his foot. It wobbled, and the canister on its edge tipped over and fell. The liquid spilled across the floor and quickly ran toward his feet.
"Stop!"
Someone shouted, but it was too late. The clown brought the torch to one of the rings. The flame ignited instantly and ran along the rings, then along the spilled liquid. The fire moved too fast. It reached the boy in seconds. Heat struck his face. He screamed, but the fire had already caught his clothes. Flames rose, burning his skin. The air disappeared, and he could no longer breathe. Everything became bright and blinding. Then there was silence. When he woke, he couldn't move. His body felt heavy and foreign. He couldn't feel his face. Voices were nearby.
He's alive.
That's bad.
Another replied.
He saw everything. His face is ruined badly.
A pause.
He can't be shown to people.
Then we won't.
The same calm voice said, a quiet chuckle.
But it's a waste to throw him away.
He tried to scream, but only a weak rasp came out.
He won't leave, and he won't tell anyone.
They lifted him, looked at him, and let him go.
It's decided. A new act.
Which one?
The mummy.
He didn't understand at first, but then he felt fabric. They began wrapping it around him, layer by layer, tightly, squeezing his body more and more. The bandages covered his face and eyes. Breathing became harder.
Now you look normal.
Someone said and quietly laughed. They carried him into the arena. He couldn't see anything, but he felt them position him, tilt him, turn him. He couldn't move at all. He tried to breathe deeper, but there wasn't enough air. Panic consumed him completely. He tried to scream, but outside there was silence.
He no longer moves.
Said the host.
And he never will.
At first, the audience didn't understand what they were seeing. A figure stood before them, completely wrapped in bandages. Motionless. Too motionless. The host paused, letting the audience get used to the sight.
Before you is absolute stillness.
He continued calmly.
Not a single unnecessary movement. Not a single visible breath.
Quiet laughter spread through the hall. Some thought it was just a trick. But seconds passed, and the figure did not move at all. Not even his chest rose, not even the slightest movement. The silence became uncomfortable. The host slowly walked around him and lightly pushed his shoulder. The body swayed and froze in a new position.
He doesn't resist.
He said,
because he can't. You may check for yourselves.
At first, no one moved. Then one person from the front row slowly stood up and approached. He hesitated, then carefully touched the bandages on the chest. For a second, he froze. His expression changed. He quickly pulled his hand away as if burned and stepped back.
Warm,
he said quietly, without looking at anyone. The hall fell even more silent. No one was laughing anymore, because now it was clear this was not a doll, not a mannequin, and not an illusion. It was a living body. It just no longer obeyed. The host smiled.
He feels everything.
he added almost in a whisper. And in that moment, the fear became real, quiet, deep, because everyone in the room understood. Before them was a person who was still inside, but would never be able to get out. After the man stepped back and whispered, "Warm," the host paused, letting the silence settle. Then he clapped lightly, and the music changed, becoming even slower, almost lulling.
But this is only the beginning,
He said. And then they began to move the boy. Not by himself. They moved him. Assistants approached from both sides and slowly turned his body as if he were an object. They bent him forward and held him there, then straightened him. Then raised one arm and left it like that. He felt everything, every touch, every movement, but he could not resist. The host walked around him, commenting as if explaining something important.
he doesn't get tired.
He said,
He doesn't ask to stop. He can't.
At some point, the lights in the hall dimmed, leaving only a narrow spotlight on him. His shadow stretched across the floor, and it seemed as if it moved separately, slower than he did. The music grew quieter. And then came the longest part of the act. Nothing happened. He just stood there. 1 minute, 2, 3. At first the audience waited. Then they began to shift uneasily. Someone laughed nervously. Someone looked away. But he stood there, not moving at all. And that was what became unbearable, because it became clear this was not a trick that would end. This was a state with no exit. The host spoke again, almost whispering.
The most frightening thing is not movement. The most frightening thing is its absence.
And in that moment, someone in the audience understood. This was not a performance with a beginning and an end. It was a demonstration of something that would continue even after the lights went out. When the music stopped, no one applauded. People sat in silence, as if unsure whether they were allowed to move. And he was still standing there, in the same position. And when the curtain slowly began to close, he did not change his posture, even by a millimeter, because he couldn't, and he never would. After the show, the lights went out, but he was not released. He remained standing in the darkness. Over time, he began to lose his sense of time. Thoughts disappeared. Memories faded. He stopped remembering even his parents' faces, and the less he remembered, the stronger the feeling became that someone was nearby. Not fear, a presence. It watched. Sometimes it came closer, and then it grew colder. He stood in complete darkness for so long that at some point he could no longer tell whether his eyes were open. It felt like he could no longer see anything. But then Something appeared in front of him. Not light, not shadow, just a faint outline, as if an image had formed inside his mind. At first it was blurred, unstable, as if it might disappear at any moment. It became clearer, more defined, slowly taking form. A figure stood before him, motionless, also wrapped in bandages. He looked at it and at first did not understand what was wrong. Then came a sense of recognition, too precise, too disturbing. The figure slowly leaned forward, and at that same moment he realized he felt that movement inside himself, as if it had already happened or was about to happen. He could not understand where he was in time. He tried to inhale, and the figure inhaled with him. He froze, and it froze. And then it became clear. It was not someone else. It was him. But not now. Longer here, worn down by this place. As if time inside the circus did not move forward, but layered itself, leaving older versions of him beside the new ones. The figure slowly lifted its head, too slowly, and through the darkened bandages, he saw what remained of the eyes, emptiness. But within that emptiness, consciousness still remained. It had not disappeared. It had simply stayed. And in that moment, he understood the most terrifying thing. He was not dying. He was not changing. He was staying. Again and again. And the fear did not go away. It only became deeper. And the mummy act never ended.